Hi everyone, and welcome to The Sleepy Scientist. I'm really happy you're here. Tonight, we're going to go on a calm and quiet trip to learn something amazing. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's enjoy this peaceful science story together. Before we start, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from and what time is it for you right now? If you like relaxing science videos, don't forget to tap the like button. Now let's begin. Imagine your mind as a quiet lake at night. The surface smooth as glass, the stars resting softly on the water. Beneath that calm, small ripples begin to move, almost too gentle to notice, and yet they travel, touch the edge, and return. This is how thought feels inside your head. It is not loud. It is not a storm. It is a hush that moves. A whisper that travels from one tiny cell to the next. Each whisper is an electrical signal, a small wave of changing charge, and your brain is a lake made of countless waves that cross and meet and fade, all while you breathe in and out, warm and safe in the dark. You might think electricity is only the sharp spark you feel when you touch a door handle in winter, or the bright line that lives in a wire. But the electricity in you is softer than that. It is made by tiny doors in tiny membranes, opening and closing to let charged particles slide through. These particles have names that sound like pebbles dropped into a pond. Sodium, potassium, calcium, chloride. They do not shout when they move, they drift. And yet their drifting makes everything you know. Thoughts, feelings, memories, the soft hum of a lullaby that your mind sings back to you when the room is quiet. A single brain cell, called a neuron, is small and patient. It waits with a certain balance inside it, a gentle difference between the charge within and the charge outside. This difference is like the tension you feel before a yawn, that sweet pull right before the release. When a signal arrives, the neuron opens its doors and sodium flows in like warm water filling a cup. The inside becomes less negative, a tide rising from the seabed. If the tide rises enough, a special kind of wave begins, an action potential. It rushes down the long, slender tail of the neuron, the axon, like a soft gust of wind running its fingers along tall grass. The wave is quick, but in your mind's time it is calm, because millions of these waves travel every moment in easy coordination, like a meadow bending all at once to a passing breeze. The axon may be wrapped in myelin, a white silky coat made by helper cells. Myelin lets the wave leap forward in gentle skips, as if the signal were hopping stone to stone across a slow river. Between these stones are tiny gaps called nodes, places where the wave renews itself, breathes and moves on. The hopping makes it faster, but you do not feel haste. You feel only smoothness, the way a skater glides across a lake, not touching the water, but carried by it just the same. When the signal reaches the end of the axon, it comes to a narrow cleft, a tender space between one cell and the next. The two cells never quite touch. They meet across a hair's breadth of air-like fluid, and the message must cross this space. The neuron releases tiny parcels called neurotransmitters, and they drift across the cleft like invisible pollen in a still room. On the far side, the next neuron has quiet locks made perfectly for these keys. When the keys fit, new doors open, and the next cell sings just a little, and the wave begins again. This open and close, key and lock, wave and whisper repeats like a heartbeat that lives in the world of thought. Every idea you have is not a single wave, but a pattern of many waves, moving together like lanterns floating down a slow river. Some patterns are familiar, like the path you take from bed to window, from window to cup, from cup to table. These patterns are practiced, smoothed by use. Other patterns are new, like first snow on a field. The brain's electricity learns by changing the strength of the bridges between cells. When two cells often whisper to each other, their connection grows more ready, more willing, more open. When they fall silent, the bridge narrows, as if covered with summer vines. This soft change is called plasticity, and it is how your mind remembers, by letting pathways thicken where they are loved and grow faint where they are left alone. The rhythm of your brain is not steady like a clock. It has slow ways for sleep, deep and rolling like the sea at night. It has gentle alpha waves when your eyes are closed and you are relaxed, like the breath you take before a dream. It has quicker, smaller waves when you are awake and curious, birds flickering in the branches. None of these rhythms are better or worse. They are different weathers of the same sky, moving as you move, softer when you rest, brighter when you reach for a thought. Even here in the quiet, the sky of your mind is never empty. It holds faint clouds of memory, warm drafts of comfort, a moon that rises when you remember a face you love. You may wonder how something so tiny as a charged particle can carry something so large as a feeling. But feelings are not carried by one particle alone. They are like the scent of tea in a room. No single leaf makes the fragrance. It is the whole cup, warm air, the memory of mornings past. In your brain, trillions of signals blend and braid. The quiet rush of sodium in one place, the slow ease of potassium in another, the flicker of calcium at a synapse. Together they make a pattern that feels like the word home or the colour of the sky just before rain. The electricity in you is not loud, but it is vast, and it never leaves you even when you sleep. When you touch your finger to a cool window, tiny sensors in your skin open their doors. An electrical ripple begins, a gentle yes, carried along long lines to your spinal cord and up to your brain. There, in a broad map that lives along the curve of your head, the place for your fingertip glows a little brighter. It is as if the room of your mind has many lanterns, and your touch lights one small lamp on a distant shelf. The feeling is simple, cool glass, faint pressure, and yet it is made of thousands of waves layered together until they soften into one smooth experience, like many threads woven into a single cloth. The electricity of thought lives not only in neurons, but in their neighbours, the glial cells. These helpers guide, feed, and clean. Some wrap axons in myelin. Others catch extra neurotransmitters the way gentle hands catch petals before they fall into a stream. They share ions, change local flows, and in their own slow language of calcium waves they speak to the network. Their voice is not as quick as a neuron's, but it is steady, like the roots of a tree talking to its leaves through hidden water. In the end, thought is a forest, not a single tree, and electricity is the wind that moves through it, sometimes a sigh, sometimes only a breath. Your heart makes electricity too, a steady pacing spark that begins in a small cluster of cells. It marches through quiet corridors, telling muscle fibers to squeeze and release like hands that comfort. This spark is different from the brain's whispers, yet it shares the same idea. A resting balance, a wave when doors open, a return to calm when doors close. Your body keeps time with these tiny tides. Wake and rest, hold and let go. Even your lungs listen, muscles widening to let air in, narrowing to let it out. each motion guided by soft electrical notes from nerves that play a song you learned before you were born. If you listen very closely to your thoughts, listening not with ears but with patience, you may notice how an idea grows. First there is a hunch, a pleasant pressure like a seed swelling in damp soil. Then a shape, like the curve of a leaf under earth. Then a sprout breaking the surface, a word on the tip of your tongue. At last the idea opens, and you feel the small click of rightness, the way a key turns in an old lock. Under all of this is the movement of charge. Tiny ions finding their paths, gates opening and closing, a found rhythm. The mind's garden is lit by this hidden current, a dawn that never quite ends. Children learn by playing, which is another way of saying they learn by letting electricity dance. They try sounds and shapes. They stack blocks, then let them fall. Each attempt is a wave across new ground, a chance for pathways to grow. Adults learn too, when they're kind to their own curiosity, when they give a thought time to stretch and yawn. The brain is not a fixed stone. It is a living shoreline. The tide of charge reshapes it grain by grain, smoothing here, building there, making small coves of skill and wide bays of memory. To practice is to invite the tide to return, and it does, faithful and soft. Sometimes the mind feels cloudy, and we worry that our electricity is weak. But clouds are only a change in light. The waves still move beneath. Rest helps, breath helps, a cup of water, a walk, a gentle word. In these simple things, certain chemicals shift, blood brings steady food, and the cells of thought find easier balance. Anxiety is often a fast wind in the forest, and the trees sway more than they must. When the wind slows, the forest finds its quiet shape again. Your electricity has always known how to calm itself. It was born from balance, and it will return to balance if given a little time and care. Memory too is an electrical garden. When you remember a song, tiny circuits light up in order, like stepping stones on a path you love. Some stones glow brighter because you step on them often. Some are faint until a scent, a sound, or a touch shines on them like the moon. The act of remembering makes the path stronger. The act of forgetting lets paths grow over with soft moss. Neither is wrong. The forest of your mind needs both open trails and secret shaded places. Think of the moments before sleep when your thoughts become slow boats on a dark river. They drift from one bank to the other, brushing reeds, making faint rings on the surface. The electricity of thought is quieter then, but not gone. It slips into loops that help sort the day, tucks memories into small, safe shelves, and carries worries downstream where they thin out and fade. In the morning, the river is clear and the boats wait light and ready. All of this, every sigh of charge, every wave of signal, happens inside a skull no larger than a melon and takes power no greater than a small dim light. Your brain hums gently, using less energy than a reading lamp, and yet it lights a whole inner world. That is the tender wonder of it. The grand made from the small, a sky of thought made from drifting ions and tiny doors that open and close. The electricity in you is not a storm to fear. It is a lantern you carry, steady in your hands, guiding you down quiet paths toward rest. So as you lie here and breathe, feel the soft glow behind your eyes. Imagine a forest that learns your footsteps, a river that remembers your boats, a sky that keeps your favourite stars. The electricity of thought moves in you like moonlight over water, never in a hurry, always arriving, always kind. It is the gentle light that lets you know yourself, and it will be here, warm and patient, when you come back to it again. The electricity of thought does not exist only in the silence of a single cell. It rises into patterns as vast as the sky itself. If you imagine looking down on a city at night, every home glowing, every street humming with its own rhythm, you will begin to see the map of the brain. The tiny sparks that leap from neuron to neuron are not random. They weave themselves into networks, and those networks into circuits, and those circuits into symphonies of activity that shift and shimmer with every breath you take. These patterns are what let you see, let you speak, let you love, let you dream. A thought is never a single light. It is a constellation, alive and moving, written across the canvas of your mind. At times, these constellations gather into steady rhythms like the waves of an ocean. Scientists call them brain oscillations, but you can think of them as the tides of the mind. There are deep, slow waves that rise and fall when you are asleep, rolling in great arcs like whales beneath the surface. There are gentler alpha rhythms, flowing like breezes across a meadow when you are calm, eyes closed, drifting without urgency. There are faster beta waves like the patter of light rain when your attention sharpens, when you read, when you think. And faster still are gamma rhythms, flickers of lightning across the horizon, brief and bright, binding together distant regions of your brain into a single, unified moment of awareness. These rhythms sing together, never fixed, always in gentle conversation, like an orchestra whose instruments join in and fade away, yet always hold the harmony of being alive. Now imagine the electricity of thought extending beyond your skull. Every movement you make, every gesture of your hand begins as a ripple of charge. Neurons in the motor cortex light up, sending their whispers down long pathways into your spinal cord. From there, the signals travel into the nerves that rest along your muscles, and with the soft release of calcium, fibers contract and relax. The simple act of lifting a cup of water is born from thousands of tiny electrical ripples, each perfectly timed, each sliding into the next with elegance you hardly notice. Your hand moves, your lips sip, your throat swallows. It feels ordinary, but the choreography behind it is as graceful as a dance of star. Even the blink of an eye, the curl of a smile, the sigh that leaves your chest are all children of this silent lightning. Electricity in the brain is not only movement but also feeling. In the folds of the sensory cortex, maps of the body glow with every touch, every warmth, every brush of air against your skin. These maps are not drawn in ink, but in patterns of charge, shimmering and shifting, always alive. When you touch a rose petal, when you let water slip through your fingers, signals rise like lanterns in this map, each neuron adding its spark to the gentle firework. When you hear a melody, waves ripple across the auditory cortex, translating vibrations of air into the hush of music. When you see starlight, photons strike your retina, and in an instant electricity carries their message back to your brain, painting the night sky inside you with perfect stillness. Everything you know of the world, its colours, its textures, its songs, exists as electricity moving softly across your inner landscape. But electricity in the brain is not a single language. It is many tongues whispering at once. One set of neurons may fire rapidly, another slowly, and together they form rhythms that braid into meaning. Some circuits pulse in synchrony, others in counterpoint, weaving complexity that is at once mechanical and deeply mysterious. It is in these subtle harmonies that memory finds its place, When you recall a childhood moment, perhaps the smell of rain on warm pavement, it is not a single neuron that remembers. It is a network lighting together, each spark rekindling the pattern that once formed in your mind. To remember is to replay the song of your own life, a melody carried by electrical notes across the orchestra of the brain. The hippocampus, a curled structure deep in the brain, acts as a librarian of moments. It listens when new experiences arrive, binding sights, sounds, feelings into patterns of activity and gently passing them into long-term storage. When you fall asleep, slow waves sweep through the brain, and the hippocampus whispers to the cortex, replaying the day's experiences, pressing them like flowers into the pages of memory. This replay is electrical, a repetition of signals, as if the brain were practicing a song so that it will not be forgotten. Each dream is a part of this process, each flicker of imagery a quiet rehearsal. In this way, the electricity of thought becomes the memory of life itself. Consider also the amygdala, the almond-shaped keeper of emotion. Its electricity is coloured by feeling. When fear stirs, neurons in the amygdala send sharp ripples, preparing the body with quickened breath and racing heart. When joy rises, other circuits dance, releasing warmth across the chest, softening the face into a smile. Emotion is not apart from electricity. It is electricity shaped into tone, as music is shaped air. And the prefrontal cortex, resting just behind your forehead, listens to these signals, balancing them, choosing, deciding. In this gentle dialogue, reason and feeling intertwine, shaping the person you know yourself to be. Yet the electricity of thought is fragile too. If the flow of ions falters, if the balance shifts, the patterns change. In epilepsy, sudden storms of charge sweep through networks, overwhelming their calm. In depression, rhythms may slow, circuits may fail to connect in harmony, leaving the inner world dimmed. But even here, the brain holds resilience. With therapy, with medicine, with care, its networks can reshape, its rhythms can be tuned again. The forest of thought bends but does not break. Its trees regrow, its rivers find their path, and electricity once more becomes the light of being. This hidden electricity is so central that machines can listen to it. Electroencephalography, or EEG, places small sensors on the scalp to pick up the faint hum of brain waves. The patterns appear as lines on a screen, gentle hills and valleys, revealing sleep, wakefulness, even glimpses of dreaming. More advanced tools can see deeper still, tracing the flow of signals through networks, mapping the living constellations of thought. Each image is a portrait of the electricity inside you, a map not of bone or blood but of energy in motion, soft and ceaseless. And electricity connects you to the world outside. When you touch another's hand, signals ripple not only in your skin, but in theirs, two maps of sensation lighting at once. When you speak, electrical waves guide the muscles of your tongue and lips, shaping sound that enters another's ear, sparking waves in their auditory cortex. In this way, your electricity joins with theirs, two minds bridging across the air with whispers of ions and waves. To communicate is to let your inner light reach another, a gentle exchange of sparks carried on breath. The origins of this electricity reach back before you were born. In the womb, neurons fire even in silence, practicing rhythms, forming the first patterns of what will later become sight, sound, movement. After birth, every touch, every sound strengthens or softens these networks. The brain prunes some connections, lets others flourish, shaping itself with each experience. Childhood is a season of rapid change, of forests growing and paths forming. But even in adulthood, the current never stills. Neurons continue to form new branches, new links, carrying the possibility of learning and change into every age. The electricity of thought is not fixed. It is a river that reshapes its banks as long as it flows. Some scientists wonder whether consciousness itself, the feeling of being, emerges from these patterns of electricity. It is not yet known. Perhaps it is the synchronization of rhythms across distant brain regions. Perhaps it is the binding of memory, sensation, and emotion into one luminous whole. Or perhaps it is something deeper, something electricity only reveals but does not explain. Whatever its source, the experience of being alive, of thinking, of knowing yourself, arises hand in hand with the movement of charge across your neurons. To reflect on this is to glimpse a mystery both gentle and profound. Imagine lying in a quiet meadow at dusk. Fireflies blink across the air here and there, sometimes alone, sometimes in clusters. At first it seems random, but soon you notice a rhythm. Flashes falling into step, waves of light rolling across the field. This is what the brain does. Its neurons, like fireflies, spark and rest, until patterns form, until meaning arises. A memory, a word, a dream, all are the firefly light of neurons, electrical and fleeting, yet carrying beauty and wonder that feels eternal. The electricity of thought also carries silence. In moments of deep rest, neurons grow quiet, their gates closed, their charges balanced. This silence is not empty but restorative, like soil lying fallow before spring. In the silence, cells clear waste, restore balance, prepare for the next bloom of activity. The mind feels still, the body drifts in sleep, but within, slow currents are at work, healing, renewing. Electricity does not vanish. It becomes a low hum, a lullaby in the background, promising that thought will return when morning comes. When you reflect on the electricity within, you might imagine it as a storm, but it's not. It is a garden of light, blooming in gentle patterns, fading and returning, always alive. The storm is too harsh a word for what happens inside you. What happens inside you is softer, more constant, more like the rhythm of waves on a distant shore. Even when you are unaware, even when your mind drifts, the waves keep their rhythm. They are the quiet heartbeat of your being. So as we drift deeper into the story, let yourself feel the calm of knowing that every thought, every dream, every memory is carried by currents too small to see but too faithful to forget. Your neurons hold you gently, guiding you across the waters of sleep and wakefulness, across the seasons of joy and sorrow. The electricity of thought is not only science, it is poetry written in charge and wave, a lullaby composed in silence and light. It's the secret lantern within you, glowing without end. The electricity of thought continues its soft story, not ending with explanation alone, but weaving itself into the meaning of your life. If you close your eyes and breathe, you can almost sense the subtle glow beneath your skull, the way signals move without your asking, the way patterns form and dissolve like clouds across an endless sky. Each idea that rises is a ripple, each memory a spark reawakened, and all together they create the quiet weather of your inner world. This weather is never still, but it does not need to be. The drifting of thoughts, The murmurs of dreams, the delicate sparks that shape your awareness are part of what it means to be alive, to exist in a body that remembers light and sound, to hold a mind that reflects its own existence. The wonder of electricity is that it bridges the smallest and the largest. In the smallest way, it is only a charged particle, sodium moving inward, potassium drifting outward, calcium opening a gate. But in the largest way, it is your laughter with a friend, your comfort in the presence of a loved one, your ability to remember the face of someone long gone. The small and the large are not separate. They are bound in the same current, a thread of energy that begins with ions and rises into poetry. Your life is made of this thread. Every smile, every word you speak, every gentle silence shared with another is written in its weave. The electricity in your head is not only science, it is a gentle bridge from the hidden to the seen, from the particle to the person, from the quiet to the profound. Now imagine the brain not as a machine, but as a night forest. The neurons are trees, their branches stretching, their roots interwoven beneath the soil. The signals are fireflies, flickering among the trunks, sending their light from one place to another. Sometimes the fireflies gather, lighting up a clearing with their glow. Sometimes they scatter, each one moving alone, faint but free. The forest is alive with this motion, yet it holds its stillness too. If you walk through it, you hear the hush of leaves, the whisper of air, the distant call of an owl. The electricity of thought is like this. It moves and glows, it fades and returns, but it never leaves. It is the hidden life of your forest, the deep song of your mind's trees. In this forest, pathways change with time. When you learn something new, when you practice a skill, new trails are made. Neurons reach out with delicate branches, building synapses, small bridges from one cell to another. Each time you revisit the trail, the path grows wider, the soil smoother, the way more familiar. Memory is the forest learning your footsteps, forgetting is the forest letting trails fade, covering them with moss, returning them to quiet earth. Neither is failure, both are natural. To remember is to keep some lights alive. To forget is to let others dim so that space remains for new fireflies, for new constellations in the trees. The electricity of thought is also rhythm, and rhythm means rest as much as activity. Sleep is a season of slow waves, great tides rolling through the brain like distant surf. These tides do more than soothe. They wash away waste, clearing the forest floor, carrying what is no longer needed into rivers that flow outward. In their passing, they also strengthen memory, turning fragile sparks into lasting trails. This is why dreams linger with symbols and fragments, carrying echoes of waking life. The forest at night is not silent. It is alive with slow fireflies, replaying the day, rehearsing the song of your being. In this way, the electricity of thought keeps you whole, tying past and present, preparing the ground for tomorrow. Your body too listens to this hidden rhythm. The nervous system carries signals not only in the brain but along every nerve, to every muscle, every organ. The heart beats to its own spark, yet it speaks to the brain through pathways of charge. The gut stirs with its own electrical pulses, weaving digestion and feeling into one. Scientists call this the gut-brain axis, but you can think of it as another forest, smaller but no less alive, where signals wander between body and mind. The electricity of thought is not trapped in the skull. It threads through you, binding head and chest, stomach and skin, weaving the self into one continuous song. There is also beauty in the way electricity joins you to the world beyond your skin. The nerves in your fingertips carry signals when you trace bark, when you lift a seashell, when you let sand slide through your hand. Each signal is a ripple from world to self, reminding you that you are part of a greater whole. When you hear bird song, when you see morning light, when you taste sweet fruit, the outer world flows inward as charge. The forest of neurons accepts these gifts, turns them into sparks and rhythms, and makes them part of your inner weather. The electricity in you is not separate from the electricity of the universe. It is another echo, another mirror, another place where energy takes shape as life. As the years pass, the forest changes. Neurons age, rhythms slow, connections shift. But the electricity remains faithful. Even in age, the fireflies glow. Even in forgetfulness, some trails remain bright, carrying the warmth of love, the echo of a song, the simple comfort of sunlight. The forest may thin, but the current still runs, carrying you as long as breath continues. In this way, electricity is a companion, a steady friend, a quiet light that remains with you until the final stillness. And even then, it leaves behind its trace in those you touched, in the sparks you shared, in the words and smiles carried onward in other forests, in other minds. Science explains this electricity with precision, with numbers, with diagrams of gates and channels, but there is a softness too, a poetry that lives between the facts. For what greater wonder is there than the truth that something so small, a drifting ion, can become the essence of self? What deeper calm than knowing that every joy, every sorrow, every dream has been carried on the back of these tiny waves? In this, science and poetry meet. The data speaks of potentials and conductance, of millivolts and currents. The heart hears only that life is carried by light too gentle to see, by charge too small to hold, by sparks that rise and fade like whispers across the night. So, as this story draws to its close, let yourself rest in the knowledge that your thoughts are lanterns, your memories are rivers of sparks, your mind is a sky painted with fireflies. The electricity of thought is your quiet companion. It is not separate from you, it is you. It is the hidden hum that makes you whole, the soft river that carries you through every season, the gentle light that will never leave you until you leave it. And for now, as you breathe and listen, it is here, flowing softly, a lullaby made of sparks, a comfort older than words. May it carry you into sleep like a calm tide, like fireflies drifting deeper into the forest of night. Imagine a field at dawn, the first light brushing the grass, the leaves trembling with dew. Long before you opened your eyes, long before the birds began their calls, the plants were already awake. They are not clocked by bells or alarms, yet they know when to rise, when to drink the light, when to rest in the shade. They carry within them a quiet rhythm, an ancient sense of time that has no face or hands but ticks all the same. It is not made of gears or numbers. It is made of chemistry, of proteins folding and unfolding, of light touching pigments, of genes switching on and off like lanterns in a forest. The plants know the hours, not by looking outward, but by carrying a clock inside every cell, a soft heartbeat that never stops. This clock is called the circadian rhythm, from the Latin around a day. It drifts close to 24 hours like the turning of Earth itself. Plants like animals like you are tuned to this rhythm, though each in their own way. Within the green cells of a leaf, tiny molecules measure light and darkness, counting the passage of hours as surely as a sundial counts the sweep of the sun. When morning comes, certain genes open, sending their whispers into the cell. When night arrives, others close, tucking themselves away until dawn returns. The cycle continues, repeating endlessly, steady as the ocean's tide, gentle as breath. To see this in a leaf is to see a hidden dance. In daylight, leaves spread wide, their pores opening to drink in carbon dioxide, their chloroplasts turning toward the sun. Inside, the photosystems wake, their pigments catching photons like nets catching butterflies, turning them into energy, into sugars that flow through the plant like rivers. But when night falls, the leaves shift. Some fold inward, some droop, some close their pores to hold water safe. The photosystems rest. The plant breathes differently, turning to the stored sugars, letting its machinery restore itself in the dark. These changes are not random. They follow the inner clock, a rhythm that tells the plant when to wake, when to work, when to rest. The clock is made not of one part but many. In the nucleus of each plant cell, proteins rise and fall in levels, chasing each other in loops. One protein switches on a gene, that gene makes another protein, and that protein turns the first one off. It is a cycle, like waves following one another to shore. In the morning, light touches photoreceptors, pigments shaped like small jewels, and these receptors send signals that reset the loop, aligning it with the dawn. In the evening, darkness lifts its curtain, and other signals move, preparing the cell for night. Together, light and dark keep the plant's rhythm in harmony with the turning of the earth. This inner clock guides more than just opening and closing leaves. It guides flowering, the delicate timing of bloom. Some plants wait for long days of summer, when light lingers late into evening before they send up their blossoms. Others wait for short days of winter, opening their flowers only when nights are long. The clock measures this balance, keeping time not just across hours but across seasons. In this way, a plant knows when to flower, when to bear fruit, when to rest in winter's hush. Survival depends on this quiet counting, this patient attention to time. If you were to sit with a bean plant in a window, you might see its leaves rise in the morning, lift toward the sun, and then lower again at night. The plant seems to sleep. Yet if you place the same plant in constant darkness, it would still move, its leaves rising and falling on their own schedule. The rhythm lives inside, not outside. Light and darkness only guide it, helping it stay in step with the turning earth. This inner metronome is ancient, older than humans, older than animals, older even than the first forests. It is a gift of evolution, a way life found to measure time without watches, without calendars, using only the turning of molecules and the quiet tick of chemistry. Think of the sunflower. Its young head follows the sun from east to west each day, a dance called heliotropism. At night, the head turns back east, ready for the dawn. This movement is not just mechanical, it is linked to the circadian rhythm, to the inner clock that tells the plant when morning will come. The sunflower does not only see the sun, it anticipates it, turning before light touches it, as if it remembers the shape of the day. This memory is not written in words but in proteins and signals, in electrical whispers across cells. In this way, the sunflower greets the day not with surprise, but with readiness, always waiting, always sure of the hours. The rhythm reaches into roots as well. Though buried in darkness, roots grow in patterns shaped by the clock. Their cells divide at times of day when energy is most available, when sugars flow down from leaves above. Even without light, they feel the timing of the plant, their growth aligned with the cycle of sun and shadow. The whole plant, from tip to root, breathes together in time, like an orchestra playing softly under the sky. Humans share this rhythm. In your own body, cells carry clocks too, cycles of proteins that rise and fall, guided by light that touches your eyes in the morning and darkness that wraps you at night. When you wake, certain genes stir, telling your body to release energy, to raise your temperature, to open the day. When you sleep, others quiet you, lowering your heart rate, guiding repair. The kinship between your rhythm and the rhythm of plants is deep. You both listen to the same earth turning, the same sun rising, the same darkness falling. Your clocks beat differently, yet they beat together in the great rhythm of life. It is soothing to think of the earth itself as a clock, spinning slowly, tilting gently, carrying all living things through cycles of light and dark. The plants keep time with proteins, you keep time with neurons. But beneath it all, the rhythm is shared, like a drum that beats beneath the surface of the world, steady and eternal. Plants count the hours not with numbers but with presence, with molecules that open and close, with petals that spread and fold, with roots that drink at the right moment. Their counting is silent, but it is exact. And it has carried them through ages of sun and storm, through winters and summers, through dawns and dusks beyond number. So the next time you see a flower open in the morning or a leaf droop gently in the night, remember that you are watching time made visible. You're watching the quiet tick of the plant's clock, the soft counting of hours that has guided life since its beginning. You are watching rhythm itself, unfolding in green and light. The plant does not rush, it does not falter. It only keeps time softly, patiently, in harmony with the turning of the earth. And as you breathe, you too keep time, your own rhythms rising and falling, your own hours counted by a clock you cannot see but always feel. In this way, you and the plants are kin, sharing in the great cycle of dawn and dusk, day and night, life and rest. And in that shared rhythm, there is a gentle peace. The quiet rhythm of plants deepens beyond the simple rising and falling of leaves. It touches every layer of their being, from the soft green of the surface to the hidden codes of their genes. Imagine standing in a garden at noon, the sunlight bright and warm, shadows small beneath the stems. The flowers seem still, but inside their cells a complex conversation unfolds. Proteins are being built, messages are being carried, switches are being turned on and off in patterns as delicate as lace. The circadian clock within the plant is guiding all of this, telling each cell when to be active, when to rest, when to prepare for the next shift in light. Though invisible, this rhythm is constant, a conductor leading the silent symphony of life. At the heart of this clock are feedback loops, gentle cycles where molecules rise and fall, push and pull in balance. A gene is expressed, making a protein that begins to build. That protein in turn finds the very gene that made it and tells it to stop. Levels fall, time passes, and the gene switches on again. Round and round it goes, like the swinging of a pendulum. But unlike a machine's pendulum, these cycles are not stiff. They are soft, flexible, and can be reset each dawn when light strikes the leaf. Photoreceptors, pigments that act as tiny eyes for the plant, sense the coming sun and nudge the cycle back into harmony with the Earth's turning. This allows plants not only to react to light, but to anticipate it, to be ready before the world changes. This anticipation is one of the most remarkable features of the circadian rhythm. A plant does not wait for the sun to appear before opening its pores, those tiny mouths on the leaf surface called stomata. Instead, it opens them just before dawn, preparing for the rush of photosynthesis. By the time the light spills across the leaf, the plant is already ready. Its pores open, its chloroplasts primed. It wastes no time, capturing the energy from the very first rays. At dusk, the same happens in reverse. Long before the last light fades, the plant closes its pores, saving water for the night. It seems almost to know what will happen, though what it truly holds is memory and rhythm, a clock that has learned through countless generations how to keep pace with the sky. In agriculture, understanding this rhythm has become deeply important. Crops that flower too soon or too late may miss the right season, leaving seeds that do not survive. Farmers have learned to breed varieties with clocks tuned to different latitudes, different day lengths. In northern lands where summer days stretch long, certain plants wait for those endless hours before they bloom. Near the equator, where day and night are nearly equal, other plants respond to different signals. All of this is written into their clocks, into the way they count the hours. Human hands may guide them, but the foundation is always the same. Proteins and genes ticking away in cycles of light and dark. Beyond survival, the clock also shapes beauty. The opening of a flower is not random. Many blooms wait for the right hour, some unfolding at dawn, others at dusk, some only in the night. Their timing matches the lives of the creatures that visit them. Night-blooming jasmine opens when moths fly. Day-blooming daisies open when bees are active. The circadian rhythm ensures that flowers give their gifts of nectar and pollen when their partners are near. In this way, the plant's counting of hours ties it not only to the earth and the sun, but also to the living web around it. To the insects, the birds, even to you, who notice their blossoms at just the right time. Inside the plant, sugar also keeps time. During the day, photosynthesis fills the leaves with sugar, which moves down the stems to feed roots and growing parts. At night, when no new sugar is made, the plant carefully releases its stores, not too fast and not too slow, so that it lasts until morning. If it released it all at once, it would run out before dawn. If it released too little, its growth would falter. Instead, the circadian clock guides this release, pacing it like a gentle drip, ensuring balance. This careful management is another way plants count the hours, not with eyes or numbers, but with food, measured and shared in rhythm with the day. Roots, though hidden, also feel this time. In darkness, they grow in pulses, guided by signals from above. The clock tells them when to stretch, when to pause, when to prepare for another push. Even in constant dark, roots keep their cycle, proof that the rhythm lives inside, independent yet aligned with the sun. Scientists have found that cells in roots express the same clock genes as those in leaves, though they never see light. They are tuned by signals, by sugars and hormones carried from the green world above, so that the whole plant breathes together in harmony. It is as if the entire being, root to flower, shares one soft heartbeat. This rhythm is not only daily but seasonal. Plants sense the length of day and night, a process called photoperiodism. They count not just the hours within a day, but the balance of light across months. When days grow longer, some plants know it is time to flower. When nights grow longer, others prepare to rest. Wheat, rice, corn, and countless other crops depend on this sense of time to yield their harvests. Without their inner calendars, fields would fall out of step with the seasons, blooms would miss their pollinators, seeds would miss their chance to grow. The circadian rhythm, stretched into seasonal awareness, is life's way of weaving time into survival. Humans too have learned from this rhythm. Our own circadian cycles govern sleep and wake, hunger and rest. When we ignore them, staying awake long into the night or hiding from daylight, our health feels the strain. Plants remind us that time is not simply hours on a clock, but a pattern written into our very cells. They keep to their cycles faithfully, showing us that balance comes from listening to light and dark, from honouring the natural flow of time. Watching them, we might remember to rest when night falls, to rise with morning light, to let our own bodies find the rhythm they carry within. Even the language of plants seems shaped by this rhythm. The opening of a blossom, the folding of a leaf, the bending of a stem are forms of communication, signals given to the world around them. A flower that opens at dawn speaks to bees in the only language it knows. A leaf that droops at night tells the world it is resting. This language is scent, yet it is universal, understood by insects, by birds, even by us. To watch a plant is to watch time translated into gesture, into posture, into form. It is to see the invisible clock become visible for just a moment, then fade again into the quiet of green. So as you drift with this story, picture yourself in a garden at night, the stars above, the flowers folded, the leaves resting. Though all seems still, inside every stem the clock is turning, the proteins rising and falling, the cycles continuing. Morning will come, and the garden will rise with it, not by chance, not by sudden command, but by the gentle keeping of time that has guided life since the first green cells reached toward the sun. The plants are counting even now, softly, silently, patiently. And as they do, they remind us that we too are part of the same rhythm, moving together with the earth as it turns, bound always to light, to dark, to time itself. The rhythm of plants is not only a matter of science, but also a quiet philosophy, a lesson in patience and trust. Imagine again a meadow just before dawn, the hush of night still holding the air, the stars fading as the horizon softens. The plants do not stir in haste. They wait, confident that the sun will rise. Their clocks, beating softly within, tell them the hour is near, and so their leaves begin to lift, their pores begin to open, their bodies prepare for the day's work. There is no alarm, no sudden signal from outside. The wisdom is inside them, written into their very cells, a rhythm older than mountains. This trust in time, this surrender to rhythm is part of what makes their existence so serene. In each green cell, proteins continue their dance. They rise in the morning, fall at night, cycle again and again in loops that never end. The feedback loops, the gene expressions, the signals that rise with light and fade with dark, all knit together into a system that keeps time without pause. It is as if the plant carries a hidden pendulum not made of metal or wood, but of living molecules, swinging back and forth, always steady. And though we cannot hear its tick, the world itself feels its rhythm. For when countless plants keep their time together, whole landscapes breathe in unison, forests exhale in the morning, fields of crops open their leaves in the same hours, and the air fills with the oxygen of their work, timed by their invisible clocks. This is why plants feel harmonious to us. When we walk in a garden or rest beneath a tree, we are entering into their rhythm, slower than ours, steadier than ours, yet deeply familiar. Our own cells too carry circadian clocks, guided by the same cycles of light and dark. When the morning sun enters our eyes, it resets the rhythm of our brain, telling us to wake. When night falls, the absence of light releases melatonin, drawing us toward rest. Plants and humans share this bond, though we sense it differently. They open leaves, we open eyes. They fold petals, we close ours. Together, we follow the same earth, the same turning of hours, the same balance of day and night. Over centuries, humans have watched plants and learned their language of time. Farmers have sown crops when plants signal readiness, guided by the opening of blossoms, the ripening of fruit. Ancient peoples studied flowers that bloomed at specific hours and built flower clocks. Gardens arranged so that one plant opened at dawn, another at noon, another at dusk. To walk such a garden was to walk through the hours, the hands of time replaced by petals and stems. These living clocks reminded people that time is not only mechanical but alive, that hours can be measured not only in numbers but in fragrance, in colour, in the quiet opening of a bloom. The seasonal rhythms carry their own lessons. When days shorten, trees begin to sense the coming of winter. Their clocks measure the length of night, and when the balance tips, signals spread through the leaves. Chlorophyll fades, revealing gold and crimson. Sugars are drawn back into the trunk. The tree prepares for rest, its inner clock guiding it into the deep stillness of dormancy. In spring, as days lengthen again, the rhythm shifts, buds swell, flowers open, roots quicken. Without calendars, without forecasts, trees know the turning of seasons, their clocks keeping faithful time with the Earth's journey around the sun. In this way, their patience stretches beyond days into months, into years, into lifetimes. Even the smallest plants carry this wisdom. Mosses on a stone, grasses in a field, tiny herbs in the cracks of a wall, all measure time opening and closing, growing and resting in rhythm with the cycle of light. Their clocks may be hidden, but their effects shape entire ecosystems. Insects depend on the timing of flowers. Birds depend on the timing of fruits. Animals depend on the timing of seeds. If the plant's clock faltered, the chain would break, but it does not falter. It beats steady as ever, linking the lives of countless beings in a great network of timing, a symphony played in green. This deep connection between life and time brings comfort. It tells us that we are not separate from the world, but part of a greater rhythm. When we rise in the morning, plants rise too. When we sleep at night, plants fold into their own rest. When we feel the shift of seasons, they feel it as well. To recognize this kinship is to feel less alone, to know that every leaf, every blade of grass is keeping company with you in the passage of hours. Their patience becomes a lesson, that life unfolds not in haste but in rhythm, not in rushing but in steady keeping of time. Science continues to uncover the details of these rhythms, the genes that tick, the proteins that sway, the signals that move through a plant's veins. But beyond the science is the wonder that such simple chemistry creates such profound harmony, that loops of molecules can become the opening of a flower, the ripening of fruit, the turning of leaves in autumn, that something so small can shape the great cycles of life. This is the poetry of the circadian clock, the vast written in the tiny, the eternal written in the fleeting, the music of hours played on strings no larger than atoms. And so, as this story finds its rest, imagine yourself lying in a meadow, the grass around you breathing in rhythm with the sky. Above, the stars wheel slowly, marking the larger clock of night and season. Around you, unseen, the plants keep their hours, counting softly, preparing for dawn, preparing for dusk, always in harmony with the turning earth. Their silence is not empty, it is full of time, full of the patience of days. And as you listen, you may feel your own rhythm ease into theirs, your breath slowing, your thoughts softening, your body remembering that you too are a keeper of hours, part of the same clock, part of the same gentle turning of the world. Water has a memory, or so it seems, though its memory is not like yours or mine. It does not hold photographs or names, nor does it recall the sound of a song or the warmth of a touch. Instead, its memory is written in structure, in the fleeting bonds that form and break, in the endless dance of molecules that never grows still. Imagine a drop of water resting on a leaf at dawn. To your eye it is clear, simple, silent, but inside countless molecules join and part, hydrogen bonds forming like hands clasping and releasing, patterns appearing and dissolving in trillionths of a second. This is the language of water, a language of impermanence that nonetheless carries shape, echo, and order. In these patterns lies a kind of memory, soft and elusive, yet powerful enough to shape all life. Each molecule of water is small, shaped like a tiny triangle, with 2 hydrogen atoms clinging to 1 oxygen. The angle of this triangle, just over 104 degrees, makes water polar, with one side carrying a slight negative charge and the other a slight positive. This polarity allows molecules to hold one another, hydrogen bonds reaching like arms between neighbours. Alone, each bond is weak, but together they form a shifting network that gives water its unusual strength. This network is never still. Bonds flicker into existence, last for a breath, then give way to new ones. And yet in their endless rearranging, patterns persist, like ripples on a pond that fade and reappear, like whispers carried across a crowd. This fleeting order is water's memory, not lasting in the way of stone, but enduring in the way of music, always vanishing, always returning. Scientists study how water remembers in its liquid state and in ice, where patterns are locked into crystals. In ice, the memory is rigid, molecules locked hand in hand, forming hexagonal lattices that spread like snowflakes. Each crystal records the conditions of its birth, the temperature, the impurities, the air. No 2 snowflakes are alike because each holds a different history. In liquid water, the memory is more subtle, shifting and ephemeral, but it still matters. The arrangement of molecules around a dissolved mineral, the clusters that form near proteins, the chains that flicker near DNA, all carry information, fleeting but real. Life depends on this kind of memory, the way water holds and releases order in constant flow. Consider your own body. More than half of you is water, flowing in your blood, resting in your warm cells, surrounding every organ. This water does more than fill space. It remembers the shapes of the molecules it touches. Around proteins, water forms shells, adjusting to their folds and creases, stabilizing them, helping them keep the forms they need to work. Around DNA, water arranges in grooves, supporting the helix, guiding the dance of genes. In the cytoplasm of a cell, water carries not only molecules but signals, currents of ions that depend on its structure. Every thought you have, every heartbeat, every breath depends on the memory of water, on its ability to arrange, to recall, to shift again and again in the blink of an instant. Water's memory stretches beyond the body into the earth itself. Rivers carry histories of rain and snow, of glaciers melting and storms passing. Each drop that falls holds the imprint of where it has been, the ocean, the sky, the soil. In caves, stalactites grow slowly, drop by drop, their layers recording centuries of rainfall, drought, and climate. In ice cores drilled from Antarctica, bubbles of air trapped in frozen water tell the story of ancient atmospheres, of ages when the earth was warmer or colder, when forests flourished or shrank. In this way, water remembers not in seconds but in centuries, not in molecules but in landscapes. Its memory is written in layers of crystal, in flows of rivers, in seas that rise and fall with the moon. Yet even in the smallest ways, water seems to know its past. Pour water into a glass, and you may notice tiny streams forming, currents that echo the way it flowed before. Stir it, and patterns linger, spirals persisting for moments before they fade. These are not thoughts, not intentions, but the natural result of physics, the way momentum carries forward, the way structure resists sudden change. And yet to watch them is to feel that water remembers, however briefly, the shape of its movement, the path it has taken, the forces that touched it. It is memory as resonance, a persistence of form in a medium that never stops moving. In plants, water's memory is written in the slow rise through stems, carried upward by capillary action and transpiration. Drops climb against gravity, drawn by bonds to one another and to the walls of vessels, rising as if remembering the pull of the sun above. In clouds, water holds the history of evaporation, the warmth of oceans, the salt it left behind. In rain, it carries that memory back to earth, washing fields, filling rivers, returning to roots. Every cycle of water is a cycle of memory, a circle of past carried into present, present carried into future. The earth's water is ancient, older than mountains, older than life, and every drop you touch has been through countless forms: ocean, rain, river, blood, cloud, ice. Each carries echoes of its journey, even as it becomes new again in your hand. This memory is fragile, but it is also enduring. In the deep ocean, currents carry signals across centuries, moving heat, salt, and nutrients. In groundwater, drops rest for thousands of years, holding the record of ancient rains. When released, they tell stories of climates long gone. Even the saltiness of the sea is a memory, the accumulation of minerals carried from land over eons, dissolved and preserved. To taste the ocean is to taste history. The quiet memory of mountains worn down, rivers flowing, time itself flowing into salt and wave. Water's memory also touches the human heart. To drink from a spring, to feel rain on your skin, to hear the rhythm of waves is to connect with something older than words. We feel it as comfort, as belonging, perhaps because our bodies remember in their own way, shaped by water from the start. The womb is filled with it, and in those first months we float, rocked by the memory of tides. When we hear the sea, perhaps some part of us recalls that first ocean, the amniotic sea, the cradle of life itself. Water carries not only physical memory but emotional echo, binding us to the earth and to one another in ways we cannot measure, but always feel. So when you sit beside a river and listen, when you watch raindrops race down a window, when you hold a glass and see the light bend through it, you are watching memory in motion. It is not memory as humans know it with words and faces, but memory as the earth knows it, with flow and pattern, with persistence and return. The memory of water is not fixed, not carved in stone, but alive, changing, always shifting. It teaches us that memory can be fluid, that it can live in movement as well as stillness, that to remember is not always to hold tightly, but sometimes to let go and let the pattern return when it will. In this way, water is both forgetful and faithful, both fleeting and eternal, a paradox that mirrors the mystery of life itself. If you listen more closely to water, you begin to notice how it keeps patterns the way a song keeps a melody, even as instruments come and go. The notes are not fixed, yet the tune remains. In a glass, in a stream, in the tiny lakes inside your cells, water shapes itself around everything it touches. The shapes do not last, but the manner of shaping does. This is a softer kind of memory, a memory of readiness. Put salt into water, and the molecules lean toward the ions, forming small circles like friends around a storyteller. The oxygen sides facing positive charge, the hydrogen sides facing negative. Take the salt away, and the circles break apart, but water still knows how to make them again. In this way, water remembers patterns by being willing to repeat them, quick as breath, whenever the need returns. Think of the way water moves through soil after rain. It does not rush straight down. It threads, it branches, it finds old paths carved by earlier storms. The grains of sand, the bits of clay, the tiny tunnels left by roots and worms all guide the flow, and water accepts this guidance without fuss. Even in the dark, it traces the memory of past storms. Here the memory is held in the land and read by the water, and yet water carries it forward, shaping new channels in the same style as the old. Over years, hills remember rain as valleys, and water remembers hills as rivers. The two learn each other's language, and the world is made by their patient conversation. Inside a leaf, water climbs through narrow tubes, xylem no wider than a hair. It rises because the molecules cling to one another, because they also cling to the walls of the tube, and because the air outside pulls as water evaporates through tiny pores. The pull is gentle, but it reaches far, leaf to stem to root, a chain of hands passing weight from one to the next. Break the chain and the column can snap into bubbles. Keep it whole, and it can lift water the height of a tree. In summer, when the air is dry and warm, the pull is strong. In fog, when air is wet and cool, the pull eases. Over seasons, the tree body keeps the scars of harder years. Wood rings tighter or wider, and the water that moves today learns to pass through this history with grace. In such movement, you can feel both the present and the past, the moment and the record, held at once. Water's memory also shows in its special habits, the quiet oddities that give life room to exist. It is densest not when it freezes, but just above freezing, so lakes freeze from the top down. Ice floats like a roof, and beneath the liquid stays a little warmer, holding fish and plants safe through winter. In spring, winds stir the water, and the layers turn over, bringing deep nutrients up to light. In this turning, a lake remembers winter and shares that memory as food for spring. If ice sank, if lakes froze from the bottom, life in water would be brief. Instead, because of the way water's bonds arrange themselves, because of the way their angles and distances favour open spaces in ice, seasons become a cradle instead of a cage. A single small angle inside a molecule becomes a wide kindness across the world. Inside you, water threads through membranes with care. It passes through gates called aquaporins, narrow channels in cell walls that allow only small single-file lines of water to slip by. Ions cannot walk here. The gates are tuned to water alone, their inner walls passing each molecule hand to hand. This tuning is a kind of structural memory, a way a protein remembers the size and shape of water. The protein itself is water's student. It folded into its final shape because of the liquid that surrounded it when it was made. Hydrophobic parts tucked inward away from water. Hydrophilic parts turned outward to greet it. Water taught the protein how to fold, and the folded protein now teaches water how to cross the membrane. In the dance of life, teacher and student trade roles again and again, and the lesson is always the same: shape, fit, and flow. The idea of water remembering has sometimes been stretched into claims that go beyond what careful tests can support. But even without those claims, the true story remains wondrous. Water does not hold long messages like tape or crystal. It holds brief patterns that arise from structure and return because structure favours them. If a jar is shaped a certain way, the swirl inside it will take a certain form. If a cell is shaped a certain way, the solutes within it, the proteins and ions, will organise the water around them in familiar halos, shells that last only moments but return again and again. Life depends on this faithfulness to pattern, this readiness to reform the same delicate rings and layers at a blink's notice, millions upon millions of times each second. In the sea, water writes memories as currents. Warm water swells and rises, cool water sinks, saltier water grows heavy, fresher water turns light, winds push surfaces, and the planet's spin bends paths to the side. Out of these forces, gyres are born, wide slow wheels that circle for years. Out of these, a long river in the ocean carries warmth across half the world, softening winters, feeding storms, guiding fish. A change in salt from melted ice can slow this river. A change in wind can speed it. The ocean does not think, but it remembers pressure and temperature and salt as patterns of motion that resist sudden change. It has inertia, and that inertia is a memory of yesterday carried into today. In this way, water keeps weather honest, keeps climate steady until pushed too hard. When it is pushed, it learns a new pattern and then remembers that instead. In a glass of water, sound moves faster than in air. The molecules are close, their bonds quick to pass a push along. A strike on the side of the glass sends a wave rippling through, and the wave remembers its shape for a time, crest after crest, trough after trough, until friction turns the wave's order into random motion, into warmth. Even here, in the soft music of a fingertip circling a rim, you can feel how water holds a form and then lets it go. The form exists long enough to be heard, to be felt, to be recorded by your listening bones, and then it fades back into small measures that look like stillness. Much of life is like this, a pattern arising from many small acts, living as a shape for a while, and dissolving into parts when its work is done. Water's readiness to form and reform bonds helps cells move messages quickly. A sudden rush of calcium in a neuron sets off cascades of change, and water shifts to make room, stabilizing ions here, guiding them there, allowing speed without chaos. In the space between neurons, the synaptic cleft, water bathes the released molecules that carry the signal. The exact spacing, the way charge is shielded, the way molecules twist, all of it is shaped by water. If water were slower to change, slower to remember the forms it must adopt, thought would be sluggish, and life would lose its timing. But water is quick, and so life is nimble. The mind's electricity, the heart's pacing, the muscles' pull all rely on this swift memory of shape and charge. Consider rivers in desert canyons, where floods come rarely but fiercely. Between storms, the channel is quiet, dust on stone. But the rocks remember the old paths in their worn walls, and when rain finally comes far upstream, water returns to the same curves, the same drops laid out by centuries of earlier flows. Boulders shift, sandbars move, but the canyon keeps its grammar. To stand there as the first brown water rounds the bend is to watch past and present blend in one body. Even our own stories work this way. We are channels cut by events, and new waters tend to follow the old turns. Change happens, but it begins by flowing in known shapes. Sometimes a flood is needed to carve a new way. Water teaches that both habits and transformations are real, that both have their seasons. The sky too holds water as memory in motion. Clouds begin as tiny crystals or droplets forming around dust, salt, pollen, small seeds that give shape to the shapeless. The kind of seed changes the kind of cloud. Some make thin veils, some make great towers. The air remembers how much water it holds as temperature and pressure, and clouds read that memory as they grow or fade. A certain warmth, a certain lift, a certain cooling on a mountainside, and rain is written into the air. When the rain falls, it remembers the mountain, and the mountain remembers the rain, because both are altered by their meeting. The scent that rises, that sweet smell after a dry spell, is part of that memory too. Oils from plants, compounds from soil, wakening to water's touch and telling the nose a story of place. In caves, stone curtains grow drop by drop. Each drop brings a little dissolved limestone, and when it hangs from a ceiling, a bit of carbon dioxide leaves the water, the chemistry tips, and a grain of stone remains. The next drop arrives, the next grain stays, and thousands of nights later a slender spear hangs from the roof, a partner rising from the floor below. The music of drops echoes, and in that echo you can feel the slowness of memory. A stalactite remembers every wet season, every drought, every change in the forest above, but it remembers in stone letter by letter, so slowly the world must lean in close to read. If you watch a river return to the sea, you see the circle close and open at once. The salt the river carries is a letter home, a reminder of rock's surrender to time. The delta the river builds is a book of braided channels that reshapes itself with every flood. The tide's push and pull is the moon's script written in water on sand. In the estuary where fresh and salt meet, plants and animals have learned to read both languages. Their cells adjust their inner salt. Their gills or roots open and close. They hold their own waters steady while the world shifts around them. To live here is to remember how to bend without breaking, to hold a form while allowing change. A lesson water keeps teaching by example. We often say water finds its level, but this simple phrase hides a deep idea. Water seeks balance. Pour it down a slope and it speeds up. Place it in a bowl and the surface flattens. Heat it and it rises as vapor. Cool it and it falls as rain. Across the planet, water moves along gradients of height, of heat, of salt, and in moving it erases those gradients bit by bit. Balance is the memory it chases, and even when pushed away, it drifts back toward that quiet line. Life does something similar. Cells keep their inner salt steady. Bodies keep their temperature near a point. Minds bring themselves back to calm after a storm. Perhaps we borrow this art from water, the first teacher of balance, whose patience is endless and whose way is always toward the middle. In the lab, when scientists cool water or press it or mix it with other liquids, They find phases and transitions that reveal how the bonds hold. Sometimes the water's structure becomes more ordered and more fluid at once. Sometimes it grows sticky. Sometimes it separates into regions with different habits. Each state is a memory of its constraints, a mirror of the world's touch. In cells, the cytoplasm is not a simple soup. It is a crowded city where water and molecules glide past each other, where regions can gel or melt depending on what the cell must do. A part of the cell may stiffen to form a scaffold, while another part softens to allow movement, and water shifts with both, remembering the needed pattern just long enough to help, then letting the pattern go. When you drink, the water you take in travels widely, into blood, into spaces between cells, into cells themselves. Along the way, it carries minerals and heat. It greases turning joints. It lifts wastes to where they can be left behind. Your kidneys read the body's needs and write instructions into water's path. More out on a hot day, less out on a cold one. The signals are hormones, small messengers that change how open certain gates are, how eager certain channels become. Water obeys because of the laws of diffusion and pressure, because of the charges on its neighbours, because of the shapes of the doors it finds. Your comfort, your clarity, your calm are all eased by this quiet work. In you, water is memory made practical, a system for keeping the present smooth by remembering what balance feels like. Sometimes you see water's generous nature most clearly when it breaks its usual calm. A wave falls and traps air, and bubbles rise like pearls. Each bubble holds a tiny echo of the sea's voice, and as it bursts, the air keeps a hint of salt, a gift of aerosols that seed clouds far away. A waterfall hammers stone and makes mist, and the mist cools leaves, feeds moss, and writes a green script on the rocks. Everywhere water goes, it leaves a trace of its passing, and everywhere it goes is shaped by traces left before. To walk along a stream is to walk through a hallway of gentle history, a record kept in pebbles and pools, in undercut banks and braided bars. All of it written by the same patient hand. When people say they feel better by water, they are not wrong. The body hears the pattern of waves and breath answers. The eye watches light ripples and the mind softens. Perhaps we were shaped by shores and springs for so long that our cells remember them with ease. Perhaps it is also the plain physics of rhythm, a repeating curve, a slow beat, a sound that carries order without demand. Water teaches calm by example, showing how to change without strain, how to carry energy without losing form, how to return again and again to level ground. In the end, water's memory is not a notebook but a habit, not a hard drive but a style of being. It takes the shape of what it meets, yet it keeps certain ways of moving, certain ways of holding and letting go. It attends to structure and repeats the forms that structure invites. That is enough for life to build from. That is enough for rivers to find seas, for clouds to rise and rain to fall, for snow to shelter fish and spring to feed fields, for cells to speak a language of ions and gates. If you cup your hands and lift water to your lips, you lift a teacher that never tires, a memory that does not cling to the past but shows you how to carry it lightly into the present, then place it down again when it is time. So let the glass rest a moment and watch the tiny current settle. Notice the way the surface smooths, how a small line of light rides along the rim, how stillness is not empty but full of tiny motions too small to see. All around you, inside you, across the world, water continues its patient work, shaping and reshaping, holding and releasing, remembering and forgetting in the same breath. This is the lesson it brings, that life can be soft and strong, changing and faithful, brief in each part and endless in the whole. The memory of water is the memory of how to be alive, fluid, responsive, balanced, and brave enough to become new while staying true to what you are. The memory of water reaches into silence, into places so deep and still that the surface of time itself seems to pause. Imagine the floor of the ocean, miles beneath the waves, where darkness has held reign for millennia. There, water presses with a weight immense yet patient, wrapping mountains in quiet. Even here, water remembers. It carries heat from vents, minerals from stone, whispers of tectonic shifts, and traces of life drifting down from above. Each layer of deep sea holds the memory of centuries, currents moving so slowly that one breath of water may take 1,000 years to circle the globe. The creatures that live here depend on that slow ancient circulation, on the memory of warmth that began far away. In their soft bodies, in their steady glow, you can see the trust placed in water's endless patience. Above ground, glaciers hold memory in a different form. A sheet of ice 10,000 years old is a library pressed into crystal. Snow falls season after season, each layer trapping a moment of air, a moment of dust, a faint signature of the sky. As more snow presses down, the air becomes bubbles, the bubbles become windows, and the windows remain until drilled and read. Scientists who study ice cores read the past as if it were a book. Page after page of temperature, storms, volcanoes, forests, and fires. In this way, water tells the story of Earth's breathing, the inhale and exhale of climate, the rise and fall of warmth, the seasons of abundance and of scarcity. No stone or tree has held memory so long and so pure. Water, frozen, becomes a keeper of history, a quiet witness to time itself. In rivers, the memory is shorter but no less beautiful. Rain falls, streams rise, banks widen. The river remembers storms in its sediment, in the curve of its meanders, in the patterns carved across sandbars. Each flood writes a new chapter, erasing some and leaving others behind. If you walk along a river's edge, you can see this palimpsest. Driftwood left high after a storm, smooth stones shaped by years of tumbling, oxbows where the water once ran but no longer flows. The river does not hold memory in one place. It carries it forward, always rewriting, always passing the past into the sea. To stand beside a river is to feel the weight of both remembering and forgetting, of carrying and releasing. The lesson is gentle. Memory is not a burden to keep forever, but a current to flow with, shaping you as you move on. Inside your own body, water continues this work, holding the memory of every cell, every heartbeat. In your blood, it carries oxygen learned from lungs, nutrients learned from food, signals learned from hormones. It holds the warmth of muscle, the cooling of sweat, the rhythms of breath. Your cells do not speak without water, do not move, do not grow. Each protein folds because of water. Each strand of DNA rests in its spiral because of water. When you feel thirst, it is the body's memory of balance, the quiet recognition that water must return. When you feel quenched, it is the restoration of memory, the soft settling back into harmony. To be human is to be an eddy of water, a whirl of its memory gathered for a time, then released back to the cycle that never ends. In culture and story, water has always been a symbol of memory. Rivers are said to carry the past, fountains to hold wisdom, oceans to keep secrets. Myths speak of waters that let you remember forever, or waters that let you forget. These tales are not science, but they echo the truth that water shapes remembrance in both matter and mind. A sip of cool spring water can call back a childhood day. The scent of rain on dry earth can summon years in an instant. These memories live not in water itself, but in us, yet they are triggered by water's presence, as if the body recognizes an old companion, an old teacher. The bond between water and memory is so deep that we have woven it into our stories for as long as we have spoken. What then does it mean to say water has memory? It means that water holds form, however briefly, and that those forms matter. It means that the structure of a molecule, the angle of a bond, the flicker of a hydrogen bridge can shape the course of life and earth alike. It means that water carries records in ice, in flow, in crystal, in salt. It means that water touches everything and changes everything, and in so doing it remembers. Not as a mind does, not as a book does, but as a rhythm does, as a song does, as the earth itself does. Memory here is continuity, the way the present leans on the past, the way the past guides the present, the way each drop is part of a whole that has flowed since the beginning of time. So let us return to that drop on the leaf at dawn. It trembles, clear and small, holding the reflection of sky. Within it, molecules join and part, patterns form and fade, bonds clasp and release. The drop is brief, soon to fall, soon to vanish into soil or air, and yet it is ancient, older than the mountain, older than the forest, older than the hand that reaches toward it. It has been ocean and rain, blood and cloud, ice and mist. It has carried memory through each of these forms, never clinging, always moving, always ready to take a new shape. The drop falls, and in falling it remembers gravity, remembers air, remembers earth. It sinks into the soil, joins the roots, rises into the plant, becomes becomes fruit, becomes water once more in the mouth of a child, and still it remembers, not in thought but in being, not in words but in flow. The memory of water is not a secret power nor a hidden code, but a gentle truth written everywhere around us. It is the truth that the world is connected, that nothing is lost, that everything returns. It is the truth that memory is not only in the mind, but in the matter of the world, in the cycles of rain and river, in the bonds of molecules, in the patterns of flow. It is the truth that to drink, to bathe, to listen to rain is to touch something eternal, to place your hand on the long continuity of life. And so, as this story closes, imagine yourself resting by water, listening to its sound. Each ripple is a note of memory, each wave is a line of history, each drop is a part of you, and you are a part of it. Together you carry the memory of the world softly, fluidly, without end. There is a kind of light that lives in you, a quiet brightness that does not blaze like a lamp but hums softly in the deep places. If you listen in the hush of night, if you imagine the inside of your body the way you might imagine a calm cave, you can sense it. In that cave stand pillars made not of stone but of living bone. They hold you the way trees hold a hillside. They are not cold, they are warm with blood and singing with signals. And in their tiny structures, where crystals meet collagen and water threads between, a gentle shimmer of energy moves. It is not the kind of light that strains the eyes. It is the kind that guides growth, helps repair, answers the tug of your steps, the press of your weight, the rise of your days under the sun. Bones carry light as a kind of order, a quiet direction, a way of turning force into form. Bone is simple and complex at once. It is part mineral, part protein, part water. The mineral is mostly calcium and phosphate arranged as fine crystals, hydroxyapatite that feels like chalk and yet grows in patterns delicate as lace. The protein is mostly collagen, long ropes twisted into cables that bend without breaking. Between them lies water that lets ions travel, that lets signals pass. Together, these parts make a material that is strong and living. It can resist a leap, a run, a laugh. It can heal when hurt. It can store minerals when you have enough and give them back when you need more. And threaded through it all are cells that feel and speak in the body's soft language. These are the bone builders, the bone shapers, the bone watchers, each one doing its task by listening to the world and whispering to the next. The builders are osteoblasts. They lay down new matrix the way gentle hands lay new bricks, not all at once but layer by layer, wrapping collagen in mineral so that strength can grow. When their work settles into place, some of these builders become residents, osteocytes tucked inside small houses called lacunae. From those houses they send long arms through tiny canals, connecting with neighbours, making a network that spreads through the bone like the branches of trees beneath the earth. The shapers are osteoclasts. They do not break to harm but to renew, dissolving old, tired bone so that new, strong bone can take its place. This slow dance of building and shaping, of laying down and lifting away, keeps the skeleton alive. It keeps it responsive, adaptive, able to learn from the forces that pass through it every day. When you walk, jump, breathe, or even stand, force travels through bone, pressure rises in one place and eases in another. The collagen stretches a little, the crystals shift a little, tiny flows of fluid slide through the canals around the osteocytes. This movement is not chaos, it is patterned, like rain finding channels on a hillside. As fluid flows, it bends small hairs on the osteocyte arms and changes the balance of charge at their membranes. Calcium moves, channels open, a spark of signal begins, gentle as the tap of a small bell. The bone feels you. It answers not with words but with chemistry, with ions, with the release of small messages that travel to nearby cells. Here we need more strength, the message says. Here we can let go. In this way, force becomes form, and form remembers force. There is a quiet electricity in this process. Collagen itself, when stretched or compressed, can show a piezoelectric effect, a way of turning mechanical stress into small electric potentials. It is like the faintest lightning inside living matter, a whisper of charge that tells the cells where stress lives, where support is needed, where growth would help. Hydroxyapatite crystals and water play their part too, sharing the load, shaping the fields. The osteocytes feel these subtle changes, and their network carries the news. You do not sense it as shock. You sense it as strength that grows where you use it, as bones that answer your daily life. A child who skips and climbs writes patterns of force into their bones, and the bones answer with firm, springy beams. An elder who walks often invites the same answer: more structure, more support, a garden tended by motion. This is how bone learns from time. It is not only the food you eat that shapes your skeleton, but the rhythm of your days, the steps you take, the sunlight on your skin, the times you rest. The light your skin gathers turns into vitamin D, and in your liver and kidneys it becomes the form that leads calcium into blood and bone. Without enough of this light-made guide, your body struggles to place mineral where it should go. With it, the journey is easier, and builders find their supplies, so the light outside becomes a kind of light inside. It does not shine, it signals. It tells your bones, in the simple language of chemistry, that the world has given what they need and that they may build. Bone is also a keeper of quiet stores. Inside the long shafts and broad plates live marrow spaces, some red with the making of blood, some yellow with the keeping of fat. The red marrow is busy with birth, new red cells to carry oxygen, new white cells to guard against harm, new platelets to weave nets when a cut opens. This happens in the cool of bone, shielded yet near the stir of every step. The yellow marrow is a pantry, an energy store that feeds when times are lean. In both water and minerals, proteins and signals flow. The light that lives in bone is not brightness but order, not glare but care, and it reaches even into these hidden rooms where life begins again and again. There is another light, faint and curious, that some scientists have seen, a soft glow called ultra-weak photon emission. It flickers in many living tissues as metabolism hums, as molecules pass electrons and breathe. Whether or not you ever notice it, whether or not it bears meaning your senses can read, it reminds us that cells exchange energy and information in many ways. In bone, the important light is mainly the one you cannot see, the light of timing, the light of structure, the light of charge changing when collagen bends, the light of hormones and nutrients arriving on schedule, the light of sun turned to D in your skin and carried by blood as an invitation to grow. These lights are not lamps, they are guidance made material. Bones talk with the rest of the body, and their voice can be both strong and kind. They release signals, small proteins that travel in blood to help balance sugar, to nudge fertility, to tune the mind. In return, bones listen to whispers from muscle, from fat, from the gut, from glands high and low. When stress grows, when sleep is thin, when food is scarce, these messages shape how much bone is built or borrowed. Where to strengthen, where to save. The skeleton is not separate. It is woven into you, into your choices, into your days. When you lift weight, osteocytes take note. When you move in sunlight, builders get braver. When you rest well, shapers and builders keep their rhythm, trading places at the right time, keeping beams fresh, keeping arches whole. Children's bones change quickly. Growth plates at their ends are busy kitchens where cartilage is laid down like dough and then baked into bone by mineral and time. In those plates, cells stack and swell, and new columns rise. The signals are precise, a dance of hormones from brain and gland, of local cues from chondrocytes and osteoblasts. In that careful choreography, the long bones lengthen, the spine reaches higher, the face finds its shape. The light here is the light of instruction, genetic plans unfolding with help from meals and steps and sleep and sun. The plans are patient. If a child runs, bones thicken. If a child sits quiet, bones still grow but learn a different lesson. The body writes with the pencil of use and bone reads each stroke. In adults, growth plates close but change does not stop. Remodeling continues everywhere. Tiny teams of shapers and builders moving along the surfaces like raindrops along a window. They leave behind small new patches, smoother, stronger, tuned to the loads you carry. Months and years write a map of your life into your skeleton, not in words but in strengthened spans, in healed lines, in fine architecture beneath the skin. This is why a new practice changes you. A season of walking steadies hips. Time spent lifting groceries heavier than before steadies spine and shoulder. Even small, playful loads, the reach, the stretch, the garden work, tell bone to keep its promise to you, to remain awake, to stay ready, to glow with the quiet order that resists fracture and finds balance. There is kindness in the way bone heals. When it breaks, blood flows and clots. A soft bridge forms, a callus that begins as cartilage and later mineralizes into firm span. Builders swam to the site guided by signals like flares in night. They lay matrix. New vessels grow to bring food. Shapers arrive later to trim and smooth, to restore the line that best answers the forces that will return. It takes time measured not in hours, but in weeks and months. And even after the mend feels strong, the whispering continues, fine-tuning beams to match your steps. Light is the image that comes to mind because healing is a return to order, a return to pattern, a setting of things in place so that energy moves cleanly through again. Sometimes balance is lost and bones thin. Long days without loading, long seasons without sun, long stories of stress that keep hormones stirred, all pull against builders. The answer then is gentle but steady. Invite light back in. Stand by a window, step outside when safe. Eat foods that carry calcium and the partners that help it find home. Press the ground with your feet, lift a little weight with your hands, sway and breathe. Tell your bones you still live here, that you still need what they give. They listen, they always have. Even in age, their cells hear the songs of step and sun. Even in age, collagen can answer stress, and crystals can settle where the body asks them to. You do not need to race, you only need to begin and to keep the rhythm. Your bones remember the sea, not with thoughts, but with salt. The calcium and phosphate once washed from rock into ocean. Life learned to borrow them, to build shells and spines and scaffolds. You stand because your body repeats that lesson each day, placing mineral along collagen lines that once were only threads. The water within you carries that mineral. The hormones tell it where to settle, the loads tell it how to arrange. In this way, the sea lives on in your ribs, in your legs, in your small bones of ear that let you hear your own steps on the floor. There is poetry in that, but also truth. The light that lives in your bones is the memory of sun and salt and movement bound into a quiet architecture that lets you belong to the world. If you could shrink and walk inside a bone, you would wander along beams and plates called trabeculae, fine bridges arranged along lines of stress like the grain in windswept sand. In the shafts of long bones you would see dense layers, lamellae, wrapping like the growth rings of trees, with small channels for blood and nerves. At each turn you would meet the small houses of osteocytes, each with arms reaching out, each listening the way roots listen for water. You would feel a faint current where fluid moves. You would see calcium ions flash as signals pass. You would watch builders laying down new lines where your real feet had landed in life above. It would be dark in there, and yet you would feel a kind of brightness, an order that is the opposite of confusion, an ease that comes from everything moving toward the shape it needs to be. And so the light in your bones is not a thing to grasp, but a way to live. It is the comfort of balance when you stand, the security of lift when you climb a step, the quiet power when you rise from a chair. It is the grace of healing when hurt, the patience of renewal when tired. Invite it by letting the day touch your skin, by letting your muscles tug gently at your skeleton, by feeding your body in simple ways that bones understand. Invite it by resting, for building needs sleep as much as it needs load. Invite it by breathing slow and letting stress ease, for signals travel clearer in calm. As you settle into night, imagine the soft work within you. Tiny currents continue to pass. Builders and shapers trade watch. The network of osteocytes hums in low conversation, passing on what your hours wrote. The mineral settles a little better. The collagen breathes. The marrow in its rooms makes what tomorrow will need. You're not still, you are mending. And the light in your bones, that order and balance, gathers itself, ready to hold you when the new day asks you to stand once more. You do not need to see it. You can trust it. It has been with you since the first day you pushed yourself upright, and it will stay with you as long as you keep inviting it in with gentle use, with quiet sun, with steady care. Light in the bones is not only a matter of strength, not only a measure of scaffolding and support. It is also a way the body speaks to itself, a language written in ions and signals, in hormones and rhythms that pass silently through blood. When we think of bone, we imagine firmness, something solid and still. Yet bone is alive, and in its living it glows with a kind of hidden radiance. Osteocytes whisper to each other across the canals, their messages carried by small currents of fluid. These currents respond to stress and rest, to weight and stillness, to the choices you make each day. They send signals that ripple out, calling on builders to add here, on shapers to ease there, balancing the inner architecture. But their signals do not stop at the bone's edge. They enter blood, they move to muscles, to pancreas, even to brain. In this way, bone is not just a frame. It is an organ of communication, a lantern in the body's network. Consider the hormone osteocalcin, a small protein once thought to be only part of bone's mineral fabric. Now we know it speaks widely, telling the pancreas to release insulin, telling cells to use sugar, shaping fertility, affecting mood. This protein made in bone travels far, and in its journey it becomes a spark of connection between skeleton and rest of self. To imagine bone as only silent scaffolding is to miss this quiet light, this reach beyond structure. In its messages, in its whispers, bone glows with influence. It reminds us that health is not divided into parts but shared across systems, that what strengthens bone also steadies heart and sharpens mind. The rhythm of bone is tuned by light from the sun as well. Vitamin D, born in skin when photons strike, travels and transforms until it becomes calcitriol, the guide that helps intestines draw calcium from food, that helps kidneys balance levels, that helps bones find the mineral they need. Without this sun-born messenger, bone falters, softens, struggles to hold weight. With it, bone grows and mends, remembering the gift of day. Even when skies are clouded, even when windows filter the rays, the body waits for light to write its signal into blood. This is why cultures in dim winters sought fish rich in vitamin D, why warmth in spring feels like more than comfort. It feels like strength returning to marrow and limb. Inside bones, marrow too holds its glow. In the red marrow, stem cells divide, giving birth to blood. This process is constant, unending, an underground fire that warms the whole body with life. Each red cell carries oxygen, Each white cell guards against harm. Each platelet weaves repair, all born in bone's quiet rooms. The signals that guide them are subtle, shaped by need, tuned by time. In sickness, marrow answers by releasing more defenders. In rest, it balances, conserving energy. This endless making is light turned into form, not a beam you see, but a pulse you feel in steady breath, in healing after wound, in resilience against disease. Bone's architecture itself holds lessons about light. The outer shell is compact, dense with strength, while the inner trabeculi are airy, like beams in a cathedral, thin yet strong, arranged along invisible lines of force. These lines are not random. They mirror the stresses bone has felt, the ways weight has passed, the shapes of movement across years. Walkers and runners, lifters and dancers each leave traces in their skeletons, patterns of reinforcement like shadows left by use. In museums, when anthropologists study ancient bones, they read these patterns like stories, learning how ancestors lived, what they carried, how they worked. Even after flesh has gone, bone remembers force, and in that memory it carries the light of lives once lived. Children's bones carry another kind of brightness, the light of possibility. Their growth plates are not yet closed, their collagen not yet fully mineralized, their marrow busy with new beginnings. In these bones, healing is quicker, change is swifter, response is sharper. Their skeletons are still learning, still writing the lessons of movement, of nourishment, of sunlight. The leaps, the climbs, the tumbles of play are all part of this education, and bones listen closely, answering with length, with breadth, with resilience. This is why children who move often, who step into day, who rest well, build frames that will serve them for decades. Their bones are not just growing, they're remembering, carrying forward the light of early life into the long arc ahead. In adulthood, the pace slows, but the light does not dim. Remodeling continues, teams of cells building and shaping, guided by signals both local and distant. Every year, a fraction of your skeleton is replaced, as if the house is being constantly repaired while you still live inside it. Old beams are removed, new ones laid down, balance maintained. You may not feel this work, but it is happening always. If you stress bone wisely, with walking, lifting, with play, the builders lay stronger beams. If you leave bone unstressed, the shapers ease away more than they should, and the frame thins. This is why weight and movement are medicine, why stillness overlong weakens, why astronauts in space lose bone when freed from gravity's pull. The skeleton waits for signals of need, and when it hears none, it lets go. But when it hears them, even softly, even late, it begins again, building where you invite it. The light in bone is also a lesson in resilience. Fracture does not mean failure. A broken bone bleeds, then binds, then builds. At first the repair is soft, cartilage bridging the gap. Then mineral arrives, hardening the span. Later, shapers refine, smoothing the callus into seamless structure. The healed bone may even be stronger at the site than before, at least for a time. This process is slow, but it is sure. It requires rest, but also gentle use, for bone learns from load even in healing. To watch a bone mend is to watch patience embodied, to see how the body remembers its own shape and returns to it with quiet determination. Light is the image because healing is brightness returning after shadow, order returning after break, flow returning after pause. Bone's conversation with muscles is another lantern in the body's dialogue. When muscles pull, they stress bone. When bone feels this, it grows stronger. When bones anchor muscles, they allow movement, they give leverage, they provide the frame for dance and work. Muscle and bone exchange signals too. Myokines from muscle, osteokines from bone, messages that shape metabolism, that tune growth, that guide adaptation. This partnership is light shared between two houses, a glow that makes the whole stronger than its parts. To keep one is to keep the other. To neglect one is to dim the other's lamp. There are moments when the skeleton seems almost magical in its quiet adaptability. Take teeth set in jaws of bone. When pressure shifts, as with braces, bone dissolves on one side of the root and builds on the other, allowing teeth to move slowly through solid tissue. The same process lets skulls grow as brains expand in infancy, lets hips widen to bear weight in youth, lets joints adjust to new postures. Bone never forgets that it is living, never stops listening to what the body asks. Even in stillness, even in sleep, it is alert to signals, balancing, reshaping, renewing. Its light is not sudden, it is steady. It does not blind, it guides. As age comes, bone changes. Density may decline, trabeculae may thin, fractures may come more easily. Yet even then, the light remains. Cells still work, builders still lay down new mineral, shapers still trim, the marrow still hums with making. Age does not extinguish the lantern. It only asks for more care in keeping it bright. Sunlight, nourishment, movement and rest remain the keys. They do not stop the seasons, but they steady the path. They slow the dimming, they honour the life still within. To see elders who walk daily, who lift small weights, who share meals rich in minerals, who sit in morning sun, is to see this truth made real. The light in bone does not vanish. It lingers, it glows, it carries forward. Bone is ancient, both in your body and in Earth's story. The first vertebrates built frames from cartilage, then learned to mineralize, to store calcium, to hold themselves tall. From fish to reptiles to mammals, the skeleton has been a library of evolution, each change written in form and strength. Your bones are part of this lineage, carrying within them the light of 1 billion years of adaptation. When you move, you carry not only your own life, but the echo of all life that stood before. The stones of your skeleton are alive, and in them are the traces of oceans, of sunlight, of movement written across ages. Their light is both personal and cosmic, a reminder that you belong not only to yourself, but to the long unfolding of life on Earth. So as you rest now, as you feel the weight of your body supported by the frame within, remember the light that hums in your bones. It is not a glare, not a flash, but a deep, steady brightness that grows with use, with nourishment, with care. It is the glow of communication, of resilience, of connection to sun and earth. It is a reminder that strength is not rigid but living, that support is not silent but singing. And as you drift into calm, let yourself trust the quiet lantern in your bones, the light that will hold you through night into morning, through rest into motion, through shadow into day. The light that lives in your bones is not a single source, not a single spark, but a chorus of brightness woven from many threads. It is the strength of mineral crystals, the flexibility of collagen, the patience of water, the quiet signals of cells, the gentle guidance of sunlight transformed into vitamin, the whispers of hormones that move like lanterns through blood. Each of these lights is small on its own, but together they form a steady radiance, the glow of a skeleton that is alive and listening. Your bones do not only hold you upright, they hold memory, they hold history, they hold possibility. They are the record of where you have been and the promise of where you may still go. They speak without words, and their language is light, soft and enduring. When you walk in a forest and hear the creak of branches, remember that your bones creak softly too, not in weakness but in conversation. They are adjusting, aligning, reshaping themselves to carry you better. When you sit in the sun and feel warmth on your skin, remember that the rays are writing themselves into your skeleton, becoming the molecules that allow calcium to settle, that let bone grow strong. When you lift a weight or climb a stair, remember that each force is translated into a flicker of charge in your collagen, a whisper of current in your cells, a message that says, yes, build here, strengthen here. These are lights you cannot see, but they shine in you nonetheless. They are the constant lanterns of your living frame. The metaphor of light extends also to resilience. When life brings stress, bones respond with calm. They break only when the strain is more than they can bear, and even then they do not surrender. They begin again, healing, building, remembering their form. This is a lesson in patience. To fracture is not to fail, it is to invite repair. To thin is not to vanish, it is to call for care, for sunlight, for movement, for nourishment. Bones remind you that strength is not the absence of fragility, but the ability to renew. Their light is not unchanging, it is adaptive, willing to shift, to mend, to learn. That is why your skeleton still grows even now, why it listens to your days, why it glows with your choices. The story of bone is also the story of connection. The minerals in your skeleton once flowed from rocks and seas. The collagen is built from proteins shaped by the food you eat, the plants and animals that grew before you. The water that threads through your bone has been rain, has been cloud, has been river, and you are not separate from the earth. You are a continuation of its cycles, a bearer of its light. Your bones are made of sun and soil, of ocean and wind, of ancient life and present breath. To feel, this is to feel less alone, to understand that you are part of a great continuity. The light in your bones is the light of the world, gathered, shaped and held within you. Even when life grows quiet, even when age has slowed your steps, the light remains. Bone still renews, marrow still makes, cells still whisper, signals still pass. It may be gentler, it may be slower, but it is there. Elders who walk in the morning, who stretch in the sun, who lift even the lightest of weights show us this truth. The glow of bone can last a lifetime. It need not fade into shadow. It can remain steady, a lantern carried to the final breath. And in that final moment, when bones no longer build, their light does not vanish. It lingers in the lives they carried, in the children and grandchildren who inherited their shape, in the soil that will one day receive their minerals, in the cycle that never ends. Light does not die. It changes form. Bone teaches us how to live. It teaches us to balance flexibility with firmness, to welcome stress as a guide to growth, to rest so that building may continue unseen. It teaches us to trust small steps and daily choices, to remember that strength is not made in a day, but in countless moments of quiet care. It teaches us that we are not separate from the sun, from the food we eat, from the ground we walk upon. It teaches us that to be human is to be a cathedral of light and matter, beams and windows, mineral and spirit, all woven into one. In this teaching there is comfort. You do not need to control every detail. You only need to invite the light, to welcome the rhythm, to trust the quiet work that goes on inside. So tonight, as you rest, imagine your bones glowing softly beneath your skin. See them not as dry or heavy, but as luminous, humming with energy, alive with signals and growth. Picture the builders laying down new beams, the shapers smoothing the lines, the marrow making fresh blood, the collagen stretching and singing with tiny charges. Picture the sunlight you once soaked in, now living in you as molecules guiding calcium to its place. Picture the long history of Earth that became your frame, the minerals of mountain, the waters of rain, the lessons of evolution written into every line. Let these images ease you. Let them remind you that you are carried, supported, lit from within by a steady brightness that does not falter. The light that lives in your bones is the light of life itself. It is gentle, patient, enduring. It does not shout. It does not blind. It simply holds you day after day, year after year, until the end. And when that end comes, it does not end the light. It only changes it, returns it to the cycles of earth, to the minerals of soil, to the rivers of time. In this there is peace. For now, though, in this breath, in this night, the light is yours. Trust it, rest in it. Let it hold you as you sleep, a quiet lantern beneath your skin, shining softly, always until the morning. The heart beats not only as a pump, not only as a simple machine of muscle and blood, but as a quiet weather system, a soft symphony of currents, pressure, and rhythm. Imagine it as a gentle wind blowing through the chambers, a breeze that rises and falls, carrying the warmth of life into every corner of the body. Each heartbeat is a pulse of energy, a small sun in the darkness, sending waves through veins and arteries as though they were rivers responding to tides. You can almost feel it if you close your eyes and listen, not with your ears but with attention, the way one feels the quiet swell of air before a gentle rain. The heart is both constant and changing, steadfast yet subtly shifting in response to every thought, every emotion, every sound of the world around you. Scientists measure the pressures, the volumes, the electric signals, and yet these numbers are only shadows of the living, breathing rhythm that the heart carries, the tiny storms and calms that define its daily weather. It beats for you, it beats with you, it beats in you, and it does so with a kind of quiet artistry that the mind cannot always fully comprehend. Blood flows like a stream that knows every hidden path of a forest, winding through narrow branches and wide channels, giving warmth, nutrients, and oxygen to every cell it meets. Inside this stream, white blood cells drift like clouds, patrolling the body for signs of disturbance, carrying messages as if on invisible currents. Platelets gather like morning dew on leaves, ready to mend, to close, to protect. Plasma carries proteins and sugars and minerals like rainwater, carrying the memory of the mountains it fell from, nourishing the soil of the body. The heart orchestrates this movement with gentle insistence, like a conductor who never raises his baton, but whose presence is felt in every swell and pause. In moments of rest, the heart slows, breathing with you, settling into a quieter pattern. In moments of excitement or fear, it dances faster, flutters, leaps, sending ripples of energy through your chest. The weather of the heart is real, alive, measurable, and yet poetic in ways that elude strict science. It is the meeting of rhythm and feeling, of mechanics and intuition, of body and soul. Now imagine the heart as more than a physical organ, as a center that senses, remembers, and responds to the world beyond the body. Researchers have discovered connections between heart rhythms and emotional states, subtle signals that travel from the heart to the brain, influencing perception, thought, and memory. The heart communicates through more than blood. It sends electrical pulses, pressure waves, and chemical messages that guide the body in ways both delicate and profound. It is sensitive to temperature, to vibration, to the presence of others. When you sit quietly beside someone you love, your heart may slow, your pulse may synchronize with theirs, an invisible conversation of rhythm and resonance that has no words yet speaks volumes. The heart is a quiet weather station, recording the storms of stress, the gentle showers of calm, the sunny intervals of joy. And it does so without fanfare, without consciousness, a hidden yet constant companion to every moment of your life. This weather is reflected in every breath you take. Each inhalation brings a soft expansion, a cooling, a filling of the chambers. Each exhalation carries a release, a letting go, a subtle return to balance. The heart and lungs perform a delicate dance, a duet that shapes the internal climate of the body. Blood and oxygen circulate together, entwined, like wind and cloud forming patterns in the sky. Every cell receives not only sustenance but also timing, cues that help it adapt, respond and thrive. Even the smallest capillaries, no wider than a hair, participate in this vast choreography, extending the heart's influence to the farthest reaches of the body. It is a reminder that every organ, every vessel, every heartbeat is part of a larger ecosystem, a microcosm reflecting the quiet, intricate weather of life itself. The heart is also a keeper of memories, a recorder of experiences that imprint themselves in rhythms and patterns. Long after an event, the body carries echoes of it in heart rate variability, in subtle electrical signatures that can be measured by scientists yet felt intuitively in moments of reflection. Happiness, sorrow, surprise, and wonder leave traces not only in your mind but also in your chest, shaping the way you respond to the next storm or calm. In this way, the heart is not only a machine of circulation but a map of experience, a living journal, a subtle storyteller. It reminds us that life is not merely lived but sensed, carried and remembered in layers of rhythm, pressure, and pulse. The quiet weather of the heart records the dance of your life in ways both scientific and poetic, invisible yet deeply present, measurable yet intangible. Even at rest, when the body sleeps, the heart continues its work, creating a landscape of subtle shifts, gentle flows, and quiet storms. Dreaming may change its rhythm, imagination may tug at its currents, but it remains a constant, steadfast yet responsive. It is in these hours that repair, nourishment, and preparation for the next day occur. The body's smallest systems, guided by the heart's rhythms, perform silent work, balancing electrolytes, repairing tissues, and sending nutrients where needed. These quiet moments reveal the heart's paradoxical nature, both active and passive, both observable and mysterious. It carries life forward with steady persistence, reminding us that even when we are still, the inner world is alive with motion, with change, with a weather all its own. As you breathe, as you feel, as you notice the rise and fall of your chest, you can imagine the heart as a sky of its own making. There are clouds of electrical pulses, winds of blood, gentle rains of chemical signals, and occasional lightning of sudden emotion. This inner weather shapes the body, shaping perception, shaping mood, shaping life itself. Scientists chart it with instruments and graphs, yet these readings capture only a shadow of the true beauty, the subtlety, the poetry of the system. Every beat is a sunburst, a small storm, a whisper, a song. To feel it is to feel alive, to sense the intimacy of your own internal climate, the living ecosystem that guides, nourishes, and sustains you. To walk slowly through a quiet morning is to feel the weather of the heart mirrored outside, the soft breeze, the faint warmth of sunlight, the gentle rustle of leaves, the pattern of birds taking flight. The external and internal climates are aligned, the rhythms of life reflected both within and without. You're not separate from this interplay. Your body responds to nature as the heart responds to itself. Every heartbeat mirrors the cycles of day and night. Every pulse a reflection of life's ebb and flow. The heart is the first meteorologist you ever had, measuring subtle currents and translating them into movement, feeling, and awareness. It is a quiet, patient, and unassuming recorder of the rhythms that sustain you, a companion that never leaves, that always shapes and reflects your inner landscape. And so, as the day fades and evening draws near, you can imagine the heart settling into its own twilight. Its rhythm becomes slower, more contemplative, each beat carrying the warmth and memory of the day. The weather inside softens, storms dissipate, and calm prevails. It prepares for rest, for repair, for the unseen work that only a heartbeat knows how to do. And as you close your eyes, imagine yourself lying beneath a sky of gentle internal weather, a landscape of currents, pressures, and soft illumination. The heart, constant and responsive, continues its quiet choreography, a reminder that life is rhythm, that rhythm is connection, and that connection is the softest and truest form of illumination we carry. Let us drift deeper into the quiet weather of the heart, where rhythm and emotion intertwine like the ocean tides with the moon. The heart is more than a muscular pump. It is a sensitive barometer, an instrument finely tuned to the subtleties of life. Scientists have long studied heart rate variability, the gentle shifts in timing between beats, and found that these variations reflect our inner emotional climate. Calm, restful states create a steady, harmonious flow, like a lake at dawn, smooth and reflective. Moments of stress, fear, or excitement stir turbulence within, like sudden gusts whipping through branches, leaving ripples and echoes that can be traced but never fully captured. The heart's quiet weather is a mirror of our experiences, registering even the smallest shifts in thought, sensation, and perception. It responds not only to our own bodies but also to the presence of others, synchronizing, resonating, and communicating in ways that are subtle yet profound. In studies where individuals sit quietly together, their heart rhythms can fall into alignment, pulses dancing in gentle synchrony without any conscious effort. This subtle phenomenon hints at the interconnectedness of living beings, an invisible thread that links one heart to another, creating a shared rhythm. Imagine two people walking side by side, their steps soft on a forest floor. Each heartbeat is a footfall, echoing and responding to the other, a conversation without words yet deeply felt. The heart is a social organ in this sense, responsive to touch, tone of voice, and presence. Electrical signals, chemical messengers, and pressure waves flow outward, subtly affecting those around us, just as the weather of a place influences the creatures that inhabit it. The heart's quiet storms and gentle breezes are never confined to the chest. They radiate outward, shaping and reflecting our interactions with the world. Consider how the heart interacts with memory, carrying echoes of past experiences within its rhythmic patterns. Memories of joy, of fear, of wonder leave imprints not only in the mind but in the chest, shaping the tempo and energy of future beats. Long after an event has passed, the body recalls it through subtle shifts in rhythm and pressure. Scientists measure these changes with electrodes and sensors, yet the true depth of what the heart remembers is poetic, subtle, and felt rather than quantified. Each beat is an echo of the past and a signal to the present, a living record of the life it has sustained. The heart's quiet weather is a chronicle of being, a testimony to the way life leaves its mark on every pulse and every flow. You can almost feel it when you pause, when you breathe, when you attend to the subtle rise and fall beneath your ribs, like listening to the wind rustling through a distant grove. The heart also influences cognition and emotional perception through its intimate connection with the brain. Neural pathways carry signals from the heart to the central nervous system, shaping attention, emotional regulation, and even decision-making. When the heart beats with calm regularity, the mind can process information more clearly, like a pond reflecting the sky without distortion. Conversely, irregular rhythms or heightened arousal send waves of influence to the brain, colouring perception and emotional response, creating subtle inner turbulence. This constant interplay reveals the heart as both weather station and storyteller, a living chronicle of inner life that bridges body and mind. In this way, the heart guides not only physical survival but emotional and cognitive harmony, a quiet guardian of balance. Imagine the internal world as a landscape in perpetual transformation, shaped by the soft and sometimes abrupt shifts of the heart's weather. Blood carries oxygen, nutrients, and signals to cells, a gentle wind moving through valleys and forests of tissue, touching every living part of the body. Capillaries, arteries, and veins form intricate channels, guiding currents with grace and precision. Electrical signals travel along fibers, igniting contractions and propagating the rhythm of life, like lightning illuminating hidden corners of a twilight sky. The heart does this continuously, without pause, creating the conditions for life, repair, and awareness. Each cell receives its sustenance and timing, its cues to act and respond, forming an ecosystem within, regulated by the subtle dynamics of heartbeats. Every beat shapes internal climate, generating warmth, motion, and flow, creating a pattern that mirrors the natural world outside. Even subtle external cues, sounds, light, touch, can stir the weather of the heart, eliciting gentle gusts or softening storms within. A birdsong in the morning, sunlight filtering through leaves, the voice of a loved one, all send signals that ripple through the body, affecting heart rhythm and, consequently, mood and perception. Researchers in psychophysiology have observed that these effects are measurable yet intimate, like a hidden tide beneath consciousness. The heart is sensitive to context, to environment, to life's subtle signals. It is both observer and participant, both recorder and responder, continuously adjusting its rhythm to the demands and delights of existence. Life flows through it, not only in the mechanical sense, but in a poetic, almost mystical rhythm that science can describe but not fully capture. This is the quiet weather that guides us, reminding us of the subtle complexity of living, feeling, and being. Let us consider now the heart in moments of deep emotion, when joy or sorrow, fear or awe rises like a storm or settles like morning dew. Physiologists have studied how emotions alter heart rate, blood pressure, and heart rate variability, revealing patterns that are as complex and nuanced as the events that trigger them. A sudden moment of delight can quicken the pulse, sending waves of energy through veins and arteries, much like wind surging across a calm lake. Conversely, grief may slow the beat, creating long intervals of pause, a quieting that permeates the chest and body. The heart is sensitive not only to immediate events, but to anticipation, expectation, and imagination. It reacts to thoughts as if they were stimuli in the external world, a testament to the profound integration of mind and body. The quiet weather is shaped as much by perception and reflection as by physical circumstances, a continuous dialogue between the interior and exterior landscapes. Through gentle attention, we can begin to sense the rhythms and patterns of our own heart, noticing the ebb and flow, the subtle accelerations and slowings. Meditation and quiet reflection bring awareness to these patterns, allowing the mind to synchronize with the body as waves meet and merge with the shore. Slow breathing, gentle posture, and soft focus create conditions for the heart to settle into harmonious oscillations, revealing a landscape of calm beneath the surface of daily activity. This is not just poetic imagination. Studies in heart rate coherence show that cultivating calm, focused attention can harmonize the electrical and mechanical rhythms of the heart, leading to improved emotional regulation, resilience, and perception. The heart's weather is both influenced by and influential upon our consciousness, a two-way conversation that continues silently yet profoundly. Even as we move through life from one day to the next, the heart's weather continues to respond, reflect, and record. It carries echoes of morning walks, gentle rains, sunlight on the skin, laughter shared, conversations overheard, moments of awe and wonder. Each beat is a note in a symphony of experience, subtle and continuous, shaping how we feel, how we perceive, how we act. The quiet weather of the heart is ever present, like a hidden climate guiding the internal world, reflecting and refracting the external. Scientists study it, measure it, and chart its patterns, but the poetry of the heart's weather is lived, felt, and sensed in ways that transcend numbers. It is the silent companion of consciousness, the steady pulse beneath thought, the gentle rhythm that sustains every living moment. And as evening deepens, the heart's rhythm naturally slows, the internal climate softens, and repair and restoration begin. Cells carry out their quiet work, blood flows with subtle intention, and the heart settles into a pattern that nurtures the organism from within. This twilight phase of internal weather allows for reflection, for healing, and for preparation for the next day. Sleep, dreaming, and quiet awareness are all supported by the subtle orchestration of the heart's rhythm, the gentle management of internal climate, the continuous shaping of life itself. In this way, the heart is both architect and caretaker, shaping the environment of the body with grace, subtlety, and enduring constancy. Its quiet weather carries us through life, through moments of calm and turbulence alike, a persistent reminder that life is rhythm, and rhythm is life itself. Now imagine the heart as a quiet storyteller, carrying memories and experiences in the rise and fall of each beat. Each pulse is a whisper, a note in an ongoing symphony that has played since the first cells learned to move blood. These rhythms, though subtle, resonate through every organ, every fibre, shaping life in ways both tangible and poetic. Scientists describe these processes in terms of electrical currents, chemical signals, and mechanical contractions. Yet there is an ineffable quality to their orchestration that words can only hint at. Consider how a heartbeat can quicken at the sight of a loved one or slow in moments of deep reflection, a dance of life occurring without conscious thought. The heart, in its quiet diligence, maps the interior landscape of the body, responding to stimuli, emotion and memory in a choreography that is precise, continuous, and profoundly adaptive. Its silent language is one that can be felt more than it can be heard, a narrative written in rhythm, energy and flow. As we move further into this gentle contemplation, let us explore how the heart communicates with the rest of the body, a silent dialogue that shapes everything from digestion to cognition. Blood vessels carry nutrients, hormones and signalling molecules, flowing in patterns influenced by the heart's rhythm. The nervous system, in turn, sends feedback that adjusts timing and force, a continuous feedback loop that maintains equilibrium. Imagine the body as a vast forest, each cell a tree, each vessel a winding path, each beat a breeze that nourishes, cools, or invigorates. The heart is the unseen wind, moving silently yet powerfully, guiding processes that sustain life, growth, and awareness. Through this interplay, the heart becomes a conductor of harmony, orchestrating physiological symphonies that sustain the organism in ways both measurable and poetic. Even the smallest shifts in rhythm can ripple through this internal ecosystem, altering patterns and responses, demonstrating the profound sensitivity of life to its own pulse. In the quiet spaces of our daily existence, the heart continues its work, unnoticed yet indispensable. Scientific observations show that heart rate variability reflects adaptability, resilience, and emotional balance, revealing the subtle ways our bodies respond to both internal and external stimuli. A calm, coherent rhythm supports clarity of thought, emotional regulation, and even social attunement, while irregular patterns may correspond to stress or emotional turbulence. Yet beyond the data, the poetry of these rhythms is in the lived experience. The feeling of a deep breath, a moment of calm reflection, the resonance of shared presence with another being. The heart, in its rhythmic devotion, becomes a teacher of patience, a guide through the currents of life, demonstrating how gentle, continuous effort sustains vitality. Each beat is a microcosm of life itself, a reflection of the interplay between structure, flexibility, and responsiveness. Consider the heart's role in sleep and restoration, when its rhythm shifts into patterns that support repair, regeneration, and reflection. During these quiet hours, cells carry out maintenance, tissues rebuild, and memories consolidate. The heart's steady pulse underpins this restorative work, providing the gentle circulation that nourishes every corner of the body. Scientists have mapped these cycles, observing how fluctuations in rhythm correspond to stages of sleep, dreaming, and physiological renewal. Yet the experiential reality is more subtle. The feeling of being cradled by your own heartbeat, a soft assurance that life continues in measured, caring motion. Here the poetic nature of the heart's work is most evident, a continuous, unspoken lullaby that sustains existence, a gentle rhythm that is at once intimate and universal. The heart in these moments is both guardian and witness, maintaining the internal climate while holding the echoes of the day in its quiet pulse. In moments of emotional intimacy, the heart extends its reach beyond the boundaries of the body. Research in social neuroscience suggests that interpersonal synchrony can occur when individuals share attention, breath, and subtle physiological cues. The rhythms of one heart may influence another, creating a shared resonance that is at once physiological and emotional. Imagine sitting quietly with a friend or holding the hand of a loved one, sensing their presence in a way that is deeper than words. Heartbeats may align, creating a delicate harmony that reflects connection, empathy, and attunement. This phenomenon, while studied scientifically, also evokes poetic reflection. Our lives are intertwined not only through social constructs, but through the subtle currents of energy and rhythm that flow silently between beings. The heart is both personal and relational, a mediator of internal and external worlds, a storyteller of connection, intimacy, and shared existence. The heart's narrative also extends into the realm of creativity and inspiration, influencing the mind in subtle yet powerful ways. Studies have shown that emotional states and heart coherence can enhance problem-solving, focus, and creativity, suggesting a dynamic feedback loop between rhythm, perception, and cognitive function. Each beat sends information to the brain, guiding attention, modulating emotion, and shaping the flow of thought. Imagine the process of artistic creation or scientific insight as a dance between heart and mind, where rhythm fosters clarity, flow, and intuition. The heart, in this sense, is not merely a physiological organ, but a subtle guide, a source of inspiration that supports the unfolding of insight and imagination. It reminds us that life's complexity is not only external but internal, a continuous weaving of pulse, thought, and reflection that nurtures both body and spirit. Let us now reflect on the heart as a keeper of memory, an archive of experiences encoded not only in neurons but in rhythm and flow. Trauma, joy, love, and wonder all leave traces in the beat, shaping responses and perception long after the events themselves. Heart rate variability, in particular, can reflect the echoes of past experiences, revealing patterns of adaptation, resilience, and emotional depth. Yet these traces are not fixed. They are dynamic, responsive to attention, care, and awareness. The heart, in its continuous work, holds a living memory, a subtle record of life that informs future action and reflection. In quiet contemplation, one can sense this continuity, feeling the gentle layering of experience as a rhythm that is at once personal and universal. The heart, in this way, is a living archive, a silent recorder of the poetic currents of life. As day turns to night, the heart prepares for the next cycle of existence, maintaining equilibrium while anticipating the future. Its rhythms support ongoing metabolism, coordination, and awareness, ensuring that the organism remains attuned to both internal and external worlds. The gentle patterns of heartbeat, blood flow, and pressure fluctuations continue without pause, sustaining the dance of life with elegance and precision. Scientists measure these patterns, observing correlations with health, emotional balance, and cognitive function. Yet the lived experience is deeply felt, a reminder of the quiet poetry inherent in biological processes. Each beat, each subtle shift, carries the story of survival, adaptation, and presence, a testament to the resilience and beauty of life. The heart, in its quiet devotion, nurtures the body, mind and spirit, guiding existence through rhythmic continuity and gentle influence. Finally, let us consider the heart as both anchor and compass, grounding the self in the present while guiding toward growth, connection, and understanding. Its rhythms remind us of continuity amidst change, of the flow of time through each pulse, each moment. The heart's quiet weather, the subtle interplay of rhythm and reflection, provides a canvas upon which life is painted, sometimes stormy, sometimes calm, but always alive. In resting with the heart, attending to its soft language, we find insight into resilience, empathy, and the interconnectedness of all living things. The heartbeat is more than life's measure. It is a poetic chronicle, a living story that we carry within, whispering quietly, persistently, and beautifully throughout every moment of being.